Welcome to the Restoration Activation Project video commentary series. Hi, Mary Ann here. Thank you for joining me. It's been a long time since I've done a commentary. I've been deeply immersed in a major project, and that project was writing a book, which is now available on my website. The title of the book is Self-Mastery Guidebook, a practical approach to progressive co-creation. All of the work that I do, my work with clients, these video commentaries, the articles on my website, and this book revolve around helping you attune to your own inner knowings around what you really are and why you were created. The book was written primarily for those of you who are sincere seekers of higher order truths about yourself and this reality, and who wish to go about the process of applying that knowledge in your day-to-day and moment-to-moment co-creations. Whether you're just beginning this process, pardon me, or you've been engaged in this type of work for many years, the book provides information that will be of benefit to you in proceeding on your journey. Not only proceeding on your journey, but helping you accelerate your rate of progress. The book is laid out in two main sections. The first section puts forth for your consideration a framework of knowledge that is provided for the purpose of helping you attain pardon me, a more holistic, higher order understanding of yourself and reality that will enable you to have a bigger picture perspective, and therefore bigger picture perceptions of what you really are and what's really going on in this reality, in terms of how to co-creationally respond, how to more wisely choose, make your co-creational choices. A holistic perspective paves the way for a more comprehensive, therefore more effective approach to your unique journey that will amplify the results of your sincere efforts on this journey. The second main section of the book puts forth a framework of knowledge provided for the purpose of helping you approach and engage in self-mastery and progression work more holistically, therefore more effectively. A holistic approach to and means of engaging this work expedite and amplify the results of your efforts, while also facilitating your ability to become increasingly self-responsible. Reclaiming self-responsibility is the cornerstone of self-mastery and progression work. But the book puts forth information that will also help you be able to become more self-supportive. Self-responsibility, self-supportive, self-mastery, as well as co-creationally aligning with your purpose. I invite those of you, if this is aligned with where you are and what you're seeking, what I've just laid out for you, then I strongly encourage you to click on the Self-Mastery Guidebook link below. You'll be taken to a page that provides a brief description of the book, along with a link to a full book summary, as well as links to a couple of excerpts from the book. The book will also help you get much more out of these commentaries. It lays an information foundation that the video commentaries build upon and expand upon. The book, pardon me, the book also in turn expands upon and goes deeper into various video commentary topics. So again, I invite you to check out and to seriously consider purchasing the book, because it's a very minor investment for a very information-rich book. It will probably, most people need to read the book on more than one occasion to get the fullest impact of what it provides. And it's also laid out in such a way to be sort of a quick reference guide for you. Perhaps you're feeling stuck in a relationship, or struggling in a relationship, or struggling in a particular work situation, for examples. But it provides information that enables you to help get back on track more quickly if you feel like you've gotten off course, as well as a generous sampling of tools, practices, and processes that actually enable you to engage in the work of self-mastery. Tools, practices, and processes all geared toward helping you more fully attune to your own inner knowings of what you really are and why you were created, and how to use that information and apply it toward your co-creational choices. Okay, now on to the topic of this commentary, which is purpose and unique purpose. A topic that has been and still has for some time been widely addressed. Many books are available on these topics, many articles, many videos broach this topic. And there is a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. Why is there so much information around purpose and unique purpose? I'm referring to soul's purpose. Why is there so much information out there, and therefore and also so much misinformation and disinformation? Well, that's the kind of things I'm going to get into today, pardon me, in this commentary. So, what is purpose? What is soul's purpose? What does that really mean? And what does it mean to fulfill one's purpose? The mind-body complex, I'm going to give some background information to sort of set the stage for this. In the same way that the mind-body complex comprises a template, more commonly referred to as a genome, so does the soul. We exist at multiple layers of being, and the soul therefore comprises a genome. Soul is an extension of core self-consciousness. And when I refer to core self, many of you would know that as oversoul or spirit. Core self, the soul, is an extension of core self, one of many extensions. Comprising self-whole, self-contained, holographic subsets of core self's template, core self's genome. And of course, genomes comprise genetic encoding. So the genetic encoding of your soul comprises a unique admixture of the various components that comprise the genome, the genetic encoding of core self. What are some of these components? What actually constitutes the genome? What are the various constituents of the genome, our template? And I'm speaking specifically to the soul's genome, the soul's template. Well, first of all, why does core self extend these unique expressions of itself, known as souls? Core self seeks to expand the whole of consciousness. And in extending itself into various souls, enables it to co-create through you, as you, by imbuing its incomprehensibly vast wisdom within multiple self-whole extensions of itself. Your soul is a unique extension comprising an essence layer genome that's encoded with a unique admixture of core self-sourced knowledge, of its level of sentience, because there are various levels of sentience. In other words, both an apple tree and you are encoded with sentience, levels of sentience, but they're different. They're different types of sentience. Your genome is encoded with a unique admixture of density and life force energies, which are explained in the book. It's also encoded with unique ratios of regressive to progressive qualities of consciousness and masculine to feminine energy units. as well as capacities for co-creational choice, what some refer to as free will. And all of these constituents shape your soul's unique, innate personality. And soul's personality comprises its inherent genius. It's encoded with its own unique genius. And there is a very helpful article on my website about core genius that will help you get a better understanding of what that is. Soul's innate personality also comprises its inbuilt disposition and qualities of character and behavior. So that's soul's personality. And all of the prior constituents that I listed help shape soul's innate personality. Pardon me, which is different from the ego and ego's personality. Each soul, your soul, is imbued with core self's intended co-creational purpose. For that extension, for your soul. And this is largely predicated on your unique encoding of your dominant quality of consciousness. And I'll dive into that more deeply in just a moment. Soul, or soul's template, the genome, soul emitted pulsations in contrast to ego sourced signaling. Soul emitted pulsations, true conscience, and intuitive signaling are advanced organic technologies, again, that are encoded into soul's genome, soul's template, for the purpose of stimulating purpose fulfillment. So true conscience, and intuitive signaling are inbuilt, highly advanced organic technologies intended to stimulate purpose fulfillment. That's how important purpose fulfillment is. Our encoded purpose. Many are experiencing heightened perception of these co-creational directives as our evolution cycle transition nears the convergence point. And the convergence point being the actual point where our current human consciousness evolution cycle ends and the next one begins. There will be a point where that shift actually takes place. Many who are having this heightened perception of these intuitive and conscious signaling that's what's referred to as the call. This signaling, this inner signaling. And this is all in response to the nearing of the convergence point. The heightened influx of energies pouring into this reality. And many other such unfoldments. Now, as a unique self-whole extension of core self's template genome, each soul and I'm referring to the human soul primarily here, human souls, are encoded with the ability to project self-whole extensions of themselves. In other words, the ability to incarnate into multiple mind-body complexes and co-creational venues, multiple realities. This accounts for or ties into the whole reincarnation system, but we also have the capacity to project extensions. The soul can project extensions of itself into different versions, non-human versions of itself, outside this reality, under certain conditions. And the soul basically calibrates each of its extensions in the same way that Core Self calibrates its souls to the genome of the particular mind-body complex into which it's projecting itself. Each soul, and thus all of our soul's extensions, are suffused with Core Self's guiding wisdom toward purpose fulfillment. Your soul, across all of its extensions, across all of its incarnations, all versions of itself, are suffused with its essence layer encoding for purpose. In other words, across all incarnations in this reality and other versions of yourself and other realities, your encoded purpose, the essence layer encoding for your purpose, your co-creational purpose, extends across all extensions. It is non-co-creational alignment with purpose that has contributed immeasurably to humanity's acute regression. The acute regression of human consciousness, aggregate human consciousness in this reality, and therefore to the regression of the mind-body complex and the conditions in this reality. Co-creational alignment with purpose is requisite to soul's evolution. Those of you who are drawn to the concept and seeking to understand soul's evolution, in other words, its progression, its advancement, must come to understand that it is by way of attaining increasingly higher ratios of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness that enable soul's progression. But first things first. A lot of people out there think they can jump right to this the transitional phase, the soul's evolution phase of soul's existence. within each incarnation. This is another form of spiritual bypassing. The talk around I want to evolve to, or I want to jump to fifth dimension, and such things. The book also addresses a number of these misunderstandings. But first things first, and that is the means by which, as we start increasing our unique ratios of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness, this is the means by which we start progressing soul's evolution. But first, we must stabilize in the increased aggregate vibratory rate that accompanies co-creational alignment with our encoded purpose. We have to become stable there first. And in doing so, this is the means by which we attain increasingly higher level of awareness informed, and thus increasingly higher vibration perspectives, perceptions, states of being, and co-creation that actually enable self-evolution of our souls. And that's what we're built to do. Self-evolve. But we have to first attune to and co-creationally align with purpose. And I've already touched on the primary determinant of our purpose. It's based in our unique ratio. It's largely predicated on, not solely, but largely predicated on our encoded ratio of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness. And there's some basic information, an article, or I believe it's a commentary, that will give you a high-level understanding of some of the primary differences between the progressive and regressive qualities of consciousness, states of being, and the types of co-creation that unfold therefrom. But this humanity as a whole, the baseline template of the human soul, is encoded with higher ratios of progressive qualities of consciousness than regressive. In other words, we were built for progressive, dominant co-creation. The human soul and this reality emerged simultaneously for the purpose of progressing the whole of consciousness. And we do that by fully attuning to and co-creationally aligning with our unique individuated consciousness. In other words, attuning to that, reclaiming our uniqueness, acknowledging our uniqueness, and then aligning with that in our co-creations. Attuning to our encoded higher ratio of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness. And each human soul has its own unique ratio. But upon inception, each soul comprised a ratio of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness, with the progressive quality, in other words, it comprised more units of progressive qualities of consciousness. A higher ratio of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness. And to help you get sort of a better understanding of unique ratios, I'm going to, if you'd like, invite you to participate in a little visual. Very simple. Imagine a horizontal line. In the exact center of that line is an intersecting vertical line. And that line represents the whole of unexpressed consciousness, which is in perfect balance. It comprises a perfect balance, equal measures of progressive and regressive qualities of consciousness, along with other constituents, which are laid out in the book. But we're looking at purpose now. So the whole of unexpressed consciousness is, because it contains equal measures of progressive and regressive qualities of consciousness, it is in perfect balance. Now, to the right, just for sake of visualization, right or left doesn't matter, I'm just using the right. To the right of that balance point, the perfect balance point of the whole of unexpressed consciousness, to the right unfolds an almost infinite spectrum of unique ratios of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness, wherein in each unique ratio there is a higher content of progressive qualities. So, for example, the very first unique ratio to the right of the balance point, although it comprises more progressive than regressive qualities of consciousness, the progressive qualities of consciousness are only slightly higher than the regressive qualities of consciousness within that unique ratio. Perhaps there is for example, perhaps that particular point on the spectrum of unique ratios comprises, we'll say, 51% progressive and 49% regressive qualities of consciousness. Okay? And of course, it's much more complex than what I'm describing. This is very oversimplified, but it's very helpful in helping you get a context for your encoded purpose. Keeping in mind that human souls, upon inception, were all encoded. Every human soul's unique ratio comprises a ratio that has more progressive qualities of consciousness than regressive, even if it's only slightly more. The next point, the next ratio, would comprise, let's say, 52% progressive qualities of consciousness and 48% regressive qualities. So you get the idea. And as you proceed further away from that balance point, Each unique ratio comprises higher ratios of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness. Now, on the left side of that balance point, the same thing applies in terms of there's this almost infinite number of unique ratios of progressive and regressive qualities of consciousness, with the regressive quality of consciousness being dominant. So just to the left of that balance point, the first unique ratio would comprise, again, this is all it's oversimplified, but let's say that first ratio to the left of the balance point comprises 51% regressive qualities of consciousness and 49% progressive. The next unique ratio, 52% regressive, 48% regressive. And the further away the unique ratios are away from the balance point, the higher the ratio of regressive to progressive qualities. Now, envision taking both of those lines, the left line between your left index finger and thumb, and the right side of the line between your right finger and thumb. Imagine yourself bending the two lines away from yourself until the ends meet. And they would meet. You've formed a, quote, perfect circle. And where the two ends meet, again, there is a perfect balance point. This represents the perfect balance of the whole of unexpressed consciousness. Immediately to the right, at this end, at this place in the circle, pardon me, the first unique ratio to the right of that balance point comprises almost total progressive qualities of consciousness and minuscule regressive qualities of consciousness. The same applies to the left. That first unique ratio to the left of that point of balance comprises almost completely regressive dominant qualities of consciousness, minuscule quantities of progressive qualities of consciousness. And it's very important, as I alluded to when I began giving this visual, to keep in mind that it is only the whole of unexpressed consciousness that comprises equal measures of both qualities. No expression, no manifest expression of the whole of unexpressed consciousness can comprise either equal measures of the two qualities or 100% of either quality. Now the book gets much more deeply into that, so you will understand it. But I have a number of prior commentaries that discuss the balancing process. But consciousness, in its vast, incomprehensible wisdom, is constantly seeking to balance all of its constituents to keep the qualities of consciousness that comprise individuated expressions of the whole of unexpressed consciousness, in other words, unique individuated consciousness, in balance between all of the constituents of manifest expressed consciousness, which accounts for this, for soul being encoded with its own unique ratio. So one could say that our encoded, soul's encoded unique ratio of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness, with progressive being dominant to some degree, is our unique role that we were encoded with within the balancing process. It's our unique mission, if you will, our purpose, the contribution that we are encoded with towards maintaining co-creational balance between all of the expressions that arise, all of the unique expressions. Our unique ratios are part of what comprises our uniqueness. Our unique ratios of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness. Our essence level genomes encoding, which also applies, the ratios, the unique ratios also applies to the masculine and feminine aspects of the whole of consciousness. The whole of unexpressed consciousness comprising both aspects, masculine and feminine aspects, in equal measure. And each unique individuated expression, manifest expression, that arises from the whole of unexpressed consciousness, therefore comprise unique ratios of masculine to feminine qualities of consciousness, along with our encoded unique admixtures of life force and density energies, levels of sentience, and our humanity's inbuilt capacities for co-creational choice, along with soul's innate, unique personality. And also keeping in mind that humanity, upon inception, all human souls were encoded with a higher ratio of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness. The work of self-mastery attainment is the work that enables us to fully attune to our encoded purpose and to co-creational align with it, so that we can become stable in that and ultimately transition to higher ratios of progressive to regressive qualities of consciousness and co-creation, soul's evolution, soul's progression. So in a nutshell, our encoded purpose, soul's encoded purpose, is the role we were, quote, assigned in the perpetual unfoldment of the inbuilt perpetual balancing process. Now, what is unique purpose? Unique purpose is the way that soul goes about fulfilling its purpose within each of its incarnations and the different versions of itself. Within whatever timeline it has extended itself into, whatever reality. So, unique purpose is the way that soul goes about fulfilling its encoded purpose within each of its extensions. And it varies from extension to extension. The soul's unique purpose. Its encoded purpose does not. However, as is apparent in this reality, the downward spiral of human consciousness, the collective human consciousness, and the conditions in this reality are clearly indicative of humanity's non-co-creational alignment with its encoded purpose. Its purpose for progressive dominant co-creation toward the progression of the whole of consciousness. When people speak of human nature, that was our encoded human nature. Service to others, co-creation. In contrast to what we see now that is so pervasive, service to self co-creation. Regressive dominant co-creation. The societal infrastructure of this little corner of the universe, this simulation of our organic reality that we were interfaced with, still are, energetically interfaced with. But what we're co-creating through now is a simulation, a regressive dominant simulation of the original version of this reality. Which is the clear reflection of, among many other causes, there are many causes for this acute regression of collective human consciousness and co-creation. But primary among them is non-co-creational alignment with encoded purpose. Soul's unique purpose in each of its incarnations relates to, attuning to, whatever timeline, whatever reality, whatever density dimensions in which you are incarnate. Attuning to that co-creational venue. And then using, discovering, acknowledging, and applying your various gifts, talents, the skills and knowledge you've acquired, your innate faculties toward fulfillment of your overarching encoded purpose. Through this individuated extension of your soul. Self-whole, self-contained extension of soul, which is an extension, self-whole, self-contained extension of core self-consciousness, core self's essence layer genome. Unique purpose also comprises various life roles that we choose, societal roles, and functional roles. Now, because of the way we have to incarnate in this reality, various life roles, we just show up. We show up as someone's child, as someone's grandchild, perhaps as someone's brother or sister, someone's cousin, someone's niece or nephew. We can ultimately end up being an aunt or an uncle. You get the idea, but we're born into various life roles because of the way we are made to incarnate in this reality. During the course of our lives, we can choose the life role of parent or not. So those are life roles. Societal roles pertain to things like job and career, for example. Becoming a doctor, a CEO, a lawyer, an artist, a writer, an engineer, a body worker. And unpacking a little bit more deeply, we take on any number of functional roles within various life and societal roles. For example, a parent might take on the functional role of event planner or teacher, mentor, on-the-spot doctor, healthcare giver for those at-home type injuries. But you get the idea. Those are functional roles within the context of life or societal roles. An engineer might take on functional roles as guide or mentor, teacher, for example. But taking on, and even those that we may be deeply drawn to, those that we would define as being our passions, for example, becoming a writer, being a writer, or an artist, or a doctor, or whatever. Just being drawn to those particular roles and engaging them doesn't mean that we are aligned with either our encoded or our unique purposes. We must come to understand that first of all, the differences between progressive and regressive consciousness, states of being, and co-creation. In the context of higher order truths such as the principles of creation and the rules of engagement, both of which were inbuilt into this reality for the purpose of helping unique expressions of consciousness, souls, fulfill purpose, to co-creationally align with purpose. To become aware of and come to deeply understand these principles of creation and the rules of engagement, while attuning to soul and core self-consciousness by way of various means, including attuning to true conscience and intuitive signaling, as well as, and which enables increasing awareness of gnosis, inbuilt inner knowing. These are all helping to guide us to facilitate co-creational alignment with purpose. These innate features of our reality, that's what they're all about. These principles of creation and rules of engagement, which are all laid out in the book. But this is what they're about. This is their purpose. The purpose of this reality, in a nutshell, is to help us align with, attune to, and co-creational align with purpose. One of the primary means by which it accomplishes this is by showing us, by way of its current conditions, the current states and the conditions of this reality reflect back to us the dominant qualities of consciousness through which we are creating. And it's very apparent in this reality, the intelligence, the inbuilt intelligence of this co-creational venue are constantly, the conditions are constantly reflecting back to us what's going on here. How far off track aggregate human consciousness, the aggregate of human souls, how far off that our encoded purposes we have become, how far off we've gotten, how far away we are from that. It is humbling to watch these unfoldments and how we're shown in every moment by way of the quality of our relationships, the types of interactions we have with people that we do have relationships with, as well as perfect strangers. And that each of those interactions are opportunities. They're always presenting energetic knowledge information that tell us, when we're able to attune to it, whether we're on or off purpose. It is mind-boggling. And that's not to say that I understand by any stretch of the imagination all of the different mechanisms at play. But the little that I do know is humbling. How all of this plays together. Everything is interconnected and interdependent. To live in co-creational alignment with one's purpose, to be able to attune to more and more deeply and co-creationally align with purpose is to live a life of true meaning. A deeply enriching and fulfilling life, the lives that we were meant to live. To be in co-creational alignment with purpose is to be in the flow of life. To be in the flow of the perpetually unfolding balancing process. Instead of trying to constantly struggling to swim upstream. In co-creational opposition to our encoded and unique purposes. This has been a huge source, one of the primary sources of human suffering and all of the suffering on this planet. Because aggregate human consciousness has been co-creating in opposition to its overarching encoded purpose, being to progress the whole of consciousness through service to others' co-creation, through attunement to this reality, working in tandem with this reality, toward the progression of the whole of consciousness by way of tapping into our unique, individuated consciousness and the fullest expression, co-creational expression thereof. I hope this commentary has been of benefit to you in trying to get higher, if you're seeking higher order understandings of your own purpose, attuning to your own purpose, and co-creationally aligning with that purpose. This is at the very heart of the self-mastery attainment process. It's central to it. And I invite you again to check out the book and encourage you to make this very small investment if the information that I'm providing makes sense. If this stimulates your own inner knowing about such things. On that note, I'm going to call it a wrap. Until we meet again, stay safe on your journey. Take care, and bye for now.